Hello, in this video I'm going to discuss 5 uncomfortable truths about being a therapist, or that I've learned from being a therapist. So number one is it is very hard to heal from one's trauma if your basic needs have not been met right now. So for example, if, and this brings me back to Maslow laws of needs. And if your basic needs, meaning your home, your housing, your medical, your food is not met, it's can be very challenging to sort of address the higher traumas. You know, if someone is suffering from housing insecurity, it is hard to sort of commit to an appointment, talk about past traumas if your current ones are not being addressed, right? If you're afraid about where you're going to sleep, your last meal, when you're going to acquire a meal, clothing, toiletries, right? If you're a woman, or if you're a woman that has children, you know, diapers and wipes and menstrual items, it's very hard to kind of talk about therapy and sort of address that and see true progress, because your environment is essentially triggering you as well. So it's hard to kind of move up the ladder. Number two is not all therapists are a good fit, and this is beyond modality. You know, some people may want a therapist that does CBT or cognitive behavior therapy. Someone may want a therapist that does trauma-informed work. And yeah, sure, you may find a therapist that is certified and is trained in this modality, but even then, may not be a good fit. You know, I've come across thousands of colleagues, but also past and present clients that have said, "Oh, this didn't work," and you know, it's because it's not just the modality that's not a good fit, but also the therapist that may not be a good fit. In addition, sometimes your therapist may be triggering you. For example, if they resemble your mother that you have a hard relationship with, or, you know, the perpetrator who did harm to you, you know, taking all of that into consideration as well. Number three is progress is not linear, right? You know, progress takes time. The way you respond to it may not always make sense. You may have days where you're doing everything right, you're checking all the boxes, and then boop, something happens and you sort of regress a little, or regress a lot, or you react back to your baseline reaction. And again, doesn't mean that you're a bad person, or the therapy isn't working. It's just, you know, I tell people this way: if you've been living in under survival for 18 years, even if you're in therapy for 3 months, even for 1 year, it doesn't equate. Like, it takes time. Number four is you may not like what you discover about yourself, about your family. You know, it may have you rethink everything that you think that you knew, and that's okay, right? Like, that's part of therapy. But I think learning to not be hard on yourself and realize that you're working for what you have, right? If you were raised in an environment where emotions weren't discussed, where people were shutting you down, like, "Oh, stop crying, nothing to cry about," it takes time to feel comfortable with your own emotions, right? Or if crime is acceptable, or you normally cry when you're about to blow up, or, you know, have an outburst, then yeah, it takes time. And those are some of the discomfort about therapy. And the last one is sometimes it is okay to realize that as much as you may want to be in therapy, that maybe therapy is not for you at the moment, right? Like, yeah, everyone is just suggesting everyone to be in therapy, which is great, but sometimes you're not ready for therapy, right? And that's okay as well, right? The same way some spiritual discernments or spiritual saying makes sense at a certain time in your life, and then when you hear it back, you know, or maybe the first time you hear it doesn't make any sense, but then when you hear it back much years later, you're like, oh, it makes sense. It's the same way with therapy, right? Not just because someone is suggesting it, just because you're trying doesn't mean you're bad at it or the therapy didn't work. It just means that you're just not ready for it right now, and there are other things that need to be addressed first. So those are my 5 discomforts. All right, take care.